An older couple was competing in their annual club championship. The match came down to a final playoff hole, and the wife had a simple 6-inch putt to win. Nervous, she took her stance, but her hands were trembling. She putted and missed. On the drive home, her husband was fuming. "I can't believe you missed that putt. It was no longer than my willy," he grumbled. His wife glanced over, smiled sweetly, and replied, "Yes, dear, but it was much harder." A guy was chilling at the bar when he suddenly felt the urge. He held it in for a solid 30 minutes, but didn't want to leave. His bar stool was prime real estate, so genius struck. He cranked up the music loud so he could let it rip in perfect sync with the beat. Sweet, sweet relief. Then he looked up, and everyone was staring at him. That's when he realized he was wearing AirPods. My friend had a surgery to transition from a man to a woman. I asked, of all the things they cut, what hurt the most? The salary, they said. A young female teacher was giving her grade 6 class a big assignment one day. Since it was a long one, she started writing high up on the chalkboard. Suddenly, a giggle broke the silence. She spun around. "What's so funny, David?" Ma'am, I just saw one of your garters." Her face turned red. "Out! I don't want to see you for 3 days." Regaining her composure, she turned back to the board. Realizing she had forgotten to title the assignment, she stretched even higher. This time, a louder giggle erupted from another student. "What's so funny, Billy?" she demanded. I just saw both of your garters." Furious, she pointed to the door. "Out! 3 weeks." Flustered, she turned back to the board but dropped the eraser. As she bent down to pick it up, the classroom erupted in laughter. She whipped around just in time to see little Johnny grabbing his backpack and heading for the door. "And where do you think you're going?" she snapped. Little Johnny slung his bag over his shoulder and shook his head. "Ma'am, after what I just saw, I'm pretty sure my school days are over." After driving for about 6 hours, a trucker decides to pull over and sleep for a little while. As soon as he falls asleep, he is awoken by some knocks on the door of the cab. "Can you tell me the time, please?" asks a jogger. "Yeah, it's 4:30, answers the trucker. He falls asleep again, but he is awoken again by another jogger who wants to know the time. "It's 4:40, yells the trucker. Deciding to really try to sleep a little, he writes on a piece of paper, "I don't know the time." He sticks the paper in his windshield, but he awoke again. "It's 5:25, says another jogger. A married couple arrived at the hospital, ready to welcome their baby into the world. The doctor greeted them with exciting news. He had invented a machine that could transfer a portion of the mother's labor pain to the father. Curious and eager to help, the couple agreed to give it a shot. The doctor started with a modest 10% transfer, warning the husband that even this small amount might be more pain than he had ever experienced. But to everyone's surprise, the husband felt completely fine. "Let's bump it up," he said confidently. The doctor increased the transfer to 20%. Still, the husband didn't flinch. Amazed, the doctor checked his vitals. Perfectly normal. Encouraged, they cranked it up to 50%. Still nothing. By now, the wife was feeling great, so the husband, feeling invincible, said, "Doc, just give me all of it." The doctor transferred 100% of the labor pain to the father. The wife had the smoothest delivery imaginable. 0 pain. That baby was born healthy, and the ecstatic couple couldn't believe their luck. They left the hospital, happier than ever. But when they got home, they found the mailman dead on the porch. 3 old men were sitting around at the nursing home, complaining about getting older. 60 is the worst age, grumbled the 60-year-old. You always feel like you have to pee, but when you stand there, nothing comes out. Ah, that's nothing, said the 70-year-old. At 70, you can't have a bowel movement to save your life. You take laxatives, eat fiber, sit on the toilet all day. Still nothing happens. The 80-year-old shook his head. 80 is the worst. Don't tell me, said the 60-year-old. You have trouble peeing too? Nope, said the 80-year-old. Every morning at 6 o'clock, I pee like a fire hose. So is it your bowels? Nope, like clockwork at 6:30. I have a perfect bowel movement. The 60-year-old threw up his hands. Then what's so bad about being 80? I don't wake up until 7 o'clock. Bob messed up. Big time. He forgot his wedding anniversary. His wife? Oh, she was furious. She told him, "Tomorrow morning, I want to see a gift in the driveway that goes from 0 to 206 seconds. And it better be there." The next morning, Bob got up early and left for work. When his wife woke up, she looked outside. And there it was. A gift-wrapped box sitting in the driveway. Confused but curious, she ran outside, grabbed the box and opened it. Inside was a brand new bathroom scale Bob has been missing since Friday. If anyone sees him, keep it to yourself. A blind man accidentally wanders into a ladies' bar and finds his way to a stool. He orders a drink and enjoys the atmosphere for a bit. After a while, he calls out, "Hey, anyone want to hear a blonde joke?" The bar falls silent. Then, in a deep, intimidating voice, the woman next to him says, "Before you tell that joke, you should know 5 things. 1. The bartender is a blonde. 2. The bouncer is a blonde. 3. I'm a 6-foot, 200-pound blonde with a black belt in karate. 4. The woman sitting next to me is a blonde and a professional weightlifter. 5. The lady on your other side is a blonde and a professional wrestler. So do you still want to tell that joke?" The blind man pauses for a moment, then shakes his head. "Nah," he says. "Not if I'm gonna have to explain it 5 times." 2 elderly ladies who were friends for decades met several times a week to play cards. One day, during a game, one lady looked at the other, squinting. "Now don't get mad at me. I know we've been friends for a long time, but I just can't think of your name. I've thought and thought, but I just can't remember it. Please tell me what it is." Her friend glared at her for a few minutes before returning with a sheepish smile. "How soon do you need to know?" she asked. The Pope calls a huge meeting of all the cardinals, bishops, and archbishops to Vatican City. He says to them, "I have good news and bad news. The good news is that I got a call from Jesus. He has returned and is ready to save those worthy of being saved." Everybody is thinking, this is excellent news. What could possibly be the bad news? He then says, the bad news is that he was calling from Salt Lake City, Utah. A man is out on a golf course when he hears someone shout, "4!" He looks this way and that, but doesn't see the ball until whack! He shouts and curses and moans, holding both hands over his crotch. "Oh, you poor thing!" A woman cries, running over to assist him. She gets on her knees and starts to rub his groin with her hands. "Is that better?" He shakes his head, so she pulls his pants down and starts rubbing it in earnest. After a few minutes, she smiles and says, "That seemed to help a lot." "Oh, it was wonderful," he says, "but the ball hit my thumb." A woman passed away and found herself standing outside the pearly gates, greeted warmly by St. Peter. Overwhelmed by the beauty surrounding her, she asked, "Is this really heaven? Did I make it here?" St. Peter smiled and replied, "Yes, you're at the gates of heaven, but there's one more thing you must do before entering." The woman, eager to proceed, asked, "What do I need to do?" "Spell a word," St. Peter said. "Which word?" she asked, slightly puzzled. "Any word of your choice," he replied. The woman thought for a moment and said, "Then I'll spell love, Love." St. Peter congratulated her and welcomed her to heaven. Then he asked if she could do him a small favor by watching the gates while he took a quick break. "Of course," she said, feeling honored. "But what should I do if someone arrives?" "Just ask them to spell a word like I did with you," St. Peter instructed. And then he left. As she sat at the gates, marveling at the heavenly sights, she suddenly saw someone approaching. To her shock, it was her husband. "What are you doing here?" she asked, startled. Her husband replied, "After your funeral, I was so heartbroken and distracted that I got into an accident. And now, I'm here. Did I make it to heaven?" "Not yet," she said firmly. "You have to spell a word first." "What word?" he asked, bracing himself. She paused for a moment, then said with a sly smile, "Czechoslovakia. And you only get one try." A man and woman were celebrating 50 years together. Their 3 kids, all very successful, agreed to a Sunday dinner in their honor. "Happy anniversary, Mom and Dad," gushed son number 1. "Sorry I'm running late. I had an emergency. You know how it is. Didn't have time to get you both a present." "Not to worry," said the dad. "The important thing is that we're all here together today." Son number 2 arrived and announced, "You and Mom still look great, Dad. Just flew in from LA and didn't have time to get you a present. Sorry." "It's nothing," said the father. "Glad you were able to be here." Just then the daughter arrived. "Hello, both of you. Happy anniversary. I'm sorry, but my boss is sending me out of town and I was really busy packing, so I didn't have time to get you guys anything." Again, the father said, "I really don't care. At least the 5 of us are together today." After they had all finished dessert, the father put down his knife and fork, looked up and said, "Listen up, all 3 of you. There's something your mother and I have wanted to tell you for a long time. You see, we were very poor. Despite this, we were able to raise each of you and send you to college. All through the years, your mother and I knew that we loved each other very much, but we just never found the time to get married." The 3 kids gasped and said, "You mean we're "Yep," said the dad, "and cheap ones too." At Grandpa's 100th birthday celebration, everyone marveled at how athletic and lean he looked. "What's your secret, Derek?" a guest asked. "I'll tell you," Grandpa said, taking a forkful of cake. "I've been in the open air, day after day for some 75 years now." The crowd gasped. "How did you keep up such a rigorous fitness regime?" someone asked. "Well," Grandpa began with a twinkle in his eye as he looked to Gran. "My wife and I made a pledge on our wedding night. Whenever we had a fight, the one who was wrong would go outside and take a walk." 3 dogs were sitting in the waiting room at the vet's when they struck up a conversation. The black Labrador turned to the yellow Labrador and said, "So why are you here?" The yellow Lab replied, "I'm a pisser. I piss on everything. The sofa, the curtains, the cat and the kids. But the final straw was last night, when I pissed in the middle of my owner's bed." The black Lab said, "So what's the vet going to do?" "Gonna cut my nuts off," came the reply from the yellow Lab. "They reckon it'll calm me down." The yellow Lab then turned to the black Lab and asked, "So why are you here?" The black Lab said, "I'm a digger. I dig under fences, dig up flowers and trees. I dig just for the hell. When I'm inside, I dig up the carpets. But I went over the line last night when I dug a great big hole in my owner's couch." "So what are they going to do to you?" the yellow Lab inquired. "Looks like I'm losing my nuts too," the dejected black Lab said. The black Lab then turned to the Great Dane and asked, "Why are you here?" "I'm a humper," said the Great Dane. "I'll hump anything. I'll hump the cat, a pillow, the table, fence posts. I want to hump everything I see. Yesterday, my owner had just got out of the shower and was bending down to dry her toes, and I just couldn't help myself. I hopped on her back and started hammering away." The black and the yellow labs exchanged a sad glance and said, "So, it's nuts off for you too, huh?" The Great Dane said, "No, apparently I'm here to get my nails clipped." A 50-year-old lady who suddenly started learning how to swim instead of her usual routine work of going to a church. Everyone was curious and asked her, "Why the change in your interest to swimming nowadays?" The lady, with a look of helplessness, replied, "Whenever my son and daughter-in-law quarrel each other, she, daughter-in-law, always asks my son, 'If your mom and I fall in water, whom will you save first?' And because I do not want to put my son in a difficult position, so I am learning how to swim." A few days later, husband and wife were quarreling again, and the daughter-in-law unreasonably asked, "Now tell me, if your mom and I fall in water, whom will you save first?" Husband replied, "I don't have to get down in the water. My mom knows how to swim. She will save you." Wife refused to relent. "No, you have to jump in the water and have to save one of us." Husband replied, "Then you will surely die, because I don't know how to swim, and my mom will definitely save me first." A man is driving down a deserted stretch of highway when he notices a sign out of the corner of his eye. It says, "Sisters of Mercy House of Prostitution, 15 miles. He thinks it was just a figment of his imagination and drives on without a second thought. Soon he sees another sign that says, "Sisters of Mercy House of Prostitution, 8 miles, and realizes that these signs are for real. When he drives past a third sign saying, "Sisters of Mercy House of Prostitution, next right," his curiosity gets the better of him, and he pulls into the drive. On the far side of the parking lot is a somber stone building with a small sign next to the door saying, "Sisters of Mercy." He climbs the steps and rings the bell. The door is answered by a nun in a long black habit who asks, "What may we do for you, my son?" He answers, "I saw your signs along the highway and was interested in possibly doing business." "Very well, my son, please follow me." He is led through many winding passages and is soon quite disoriented. The nun stops at a closed door and tells the man, "Please knock on this door." He does as he is told, and this door is answered by another nun in a long habit and holding a tin cup. This nun instructs, "Please place $50 in the cup, then go through the large wooden door at the end of this hallway." He gets $50 out of his wallet and places it in the second nun's cup. He then trots eagerly down the hall and slips through the door, pulling it shut behind him. As the door locks behind him, he finds himself back in the parking lot facing another small sign. The sign says, "Go in peace. You have just been by the Sisters of Mercy." Laura's dishwasher quit working, so she called a repairman. Since she had to go to work the next day, she told the repairman, "I'll leave the key under the mat. Fix the dishwasher, leave the bill on the counter, and I'll mail you a check. Oh, by the way, don't worry about my bulldog, Bob. He won't bother you. But whatever you do not, under any circumstances, talk to my parrot. I repeat, do not talk to my parrot." When the repairman arrived at Laura's apartment the following day, he discovered the biggest, meanest-looking bulldog he has ever seen. But, just as she had said, the dog just lay there on the carpet, watching the repairman go about his work. The parrot, however, drove him nuts the whole time with his incessant yelling, cursing, and name-calling. Finally, the repairman couldn't contain himself any longer and yelled, "Shut up, you stupid, ugly bird!" To which the parrot replied, "Get him, Bob." Husband: "Sheriff, my wife is missing. She went shopping yesterday and hasn't come home." Sheriff: "All right, sir. Let's start with some details. How tall is she?" Husband: A little over 5 feet, I think." Sheriff: "Weight?" Husband: "Not really sure. Kinda cute. Not slim, not really fat." Sheriff: "Eye color?" Husband: "Sorta brown, I think. Never really noticed." Sheriff: "Hair color?" Husband: "Changes a couple of times a year. Maybe dark brown now? Can't remember." Sheriff: What was she wearing? Husband. Could have been pants. Or a skirt. Or maybe shorts. Not exactly sure. Sheriff. Okay. What kind of car was she driving? Husband. Oh, she took my truck. Sheriff. All right. What kind of truck is it? The husband suddenly straightens up. It's a 2016 pearl white Dodge Ram Limited 4X4 with a 6.4L Hemi V8 engine. It's got the Ram box bar and fridge option, LED lighting, backup and front cameras, moose hide leather heated and cooled seats, climate-controlled AC, a custom matching bed cover, WeatherTech floor mats, a trailer tow package with a gold hitch, sunroof, DVD player, full GPS navigation, satellite radio, Cobra 75 WXST40 channel CB radio, 6 cup holders, 3 USB ports, 4 power outlets, special alloy wheels, off-road Toyo tires, custom retracting running boards, and underglow wheel well lighting. The husband's voice starts to tremble, and he chokes up. Sheriff, take it easy, sir. We'll find your truck. A woman was at her hairdresser's getting her hair done for a big trip to Rome with her husband. As they chatted, she mentioned the trip. Hairdresser. Rome. Why would anyone want to go there? It's crowded and dirty. You're crazy. So how are you getting there? Woman. We're flying BA. Got a great rate. Hairdresser. BA. That airline's the worst. Old planes, rude flight attendants, always late. So, where are you staying? Woman. A little boutique hotel by the Tiber River called Teste. Hairdresser. Ugh, don't even bother. Everyone thinks it's fancy, but it's a total dump. Woman. Well, we're also visiting the Vatican. Maybe we'll even see the Pope. Hairdresser. Laughs. You and a million other tourists. He'll be a tiny speck in the distance. Good luck with that trip. You're gonna need it. A month later, the woman returns for another appointment. Hairdresser. So, how was Rome? Woman. It was amazing. BA upgraded us to first class. The food was incredible, and I had a handsome 28-year-old steward waiting on me hand and foot. Hairdresser. Huh. Well, what about that hotel? Woman. They just finished a £5 million renovation. It was stunning. And they were overbooked, so they gave us the owner's suite for free. Hairdresser. Muttering. Well, bet you didn't see the Pope. Woman. Actually, we got super lucky. A Swiss guard tapped me on the shoulder and said the Pope likes to meet a few visitors. They took me to his private room, and 5 minutes later, the Pope himself walked in and shook my hand. Hairdresser. No way. What did he say to you? Woman. He looked at me, smiled, and said, Who the heck did your hair?